Hello, hello, and welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Peo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Peo. Today, I'm joined with Chris Riedinger with Sun Street Solar. So, Chris, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Nate. I'm
It's
doing very, very
funny.
well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's funny as we were right before we started recording, I said, "Hey, we're not going to edit this unless I mess up the intro," and I messed up the intro because I forgot to intro
It
you.
sounded good to me. I mean,
Well, so just so everybody knows who Chris is the director of business development uh, with SunStreet. He's got a proven track record in the solar and construction industries, and as a thought leader, he strives to provide home builders with the knowledge they need to seamlessly integrate solar into their new home communities. So, once again, welcome to the show, Chris.
thank you,
Thanks for
Nate.
joining
Happy to
me.
be here.
So, um, Chris, you're somebody I've known in the past. We're in the same industry. We're in the building industry. We've met each other through, I guess, originally networking events of some sort. We were kind of discussing. We couldn't remember the exact one, but it led to some meetings and some talks about solar. And solar's, a hot topic now in the construction world, but it's also a hot topic for everybody, I think, out there that are looking to be environmentally conscious, making better, safe decisions, and what's sustainable and what's not.
Right.
But I think also over the course of the time we've known each other, we've interacted with each other at other networking events. We've also engaged with each other on social media. And I think what happens a lot of times is that first meeting with somebody is very you're all strangers, right? And you don't know each other that well, so it's a little bit cold, and then it warms up and then you get to know people. So that's why I always encourage people, like, hey, it's all right to be on specifically LinkedIn, but your other social medias to be business and personal at the same time, because it
Right.
allows people to get a little insight into who you are as a person instead of being just some strange person you see once or twice a year at some
Yeah.
event, and you have this preconceived notion of who they are. You know who they are. You know a little bit about who they are, with their families, and what their hobbies are, what their interests are, where they live, and what their background is. So, it's cool to have you kind of come on and get some more industry people into the show. So,
Definitely.
um, first question for you is, what does the word luck mean to you? Do you think people are lucky?
I think people are lucky. I mean, I've done a little bit of gambling in my day. In a previous role, I actually covered part of Reno, Nevada. So we actually had a company rate at one of the casinos there. So I did a little bit of gambling whenever I would stay overnight there. I definitely think there's people that are lucky, and there's people that aren't lucky. To me, luck is a little bit of what you make it, but there's also kind of that cosmic X factor, if you will, of will it or won't it. But I definitely think some people make their own luck, and those are the people that are consistent and consistently succeed and are consistently doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There does seem to be some random strokes of luck that people go on, especially I guess people want to go on a long uh, play streak, but I think
Right.
everybody knows over an extended period of time, the odds are stacked in the casino's favor. The luck is on their side, and they'll eventually get their money back. You play long enough, so
Absolutely. Yep.
interesting take on it. So, talk a little bit about your story. Who is Chris? Why did you get into construction? Why did you get into solar? And why did you get into sales? What's the backstory behind
Yeah,
that?
there's a couple of different reasons, and it's funny that we're talking about this and around this whole idea of relationships, right? Because the reason that I'm in this role is because of relationships. Um, when I came out of college, I actually had a degree in radio, television, and film, believe it or not, with a minor in marketing. Originally, I wanted to do like talent A&R and talent recruiting for a record label, and then partway through college, I was like, well, you don't really need a record label anymore to record an album or to put out an album, right? So I quickly picked up a marketing minor. And then right out of school, a family friend of ours helped me get a job at a rental car company. And, I went through the whole rental car thing. I was there for 3, 4 years. And then moved into more of a serious sales role from there. Like sales and have been kind of doing some sort of sales ever since, really. Um, and my dad was actually an architect. So I got to see, since I was young, I looked over blueprints and, CAD drawings. He was one of actually the first people to do a project using CAD. I mean, it was amazing seeing him do drawings both by CAD and by hand, without the aid of the computer. But that kind of got me thinking more about building and construction. And so from there, I actually worked for a building products manufacturer, and I loved that. And that's where the Reno territory came in. But that taught me a lot about the industry. And from there, I actually had a friend of mine that I had known, again, relationships from back at the rental car company, saying, hey, you need to take a look at this solar thing because it's going to be huge, right? And that was back in the Solar City days. And so joined up in Solar City and started selling solar to people over the phone. And realized I loved talking about solar and talking about the process of getting their system installed and activated and all that. Tried my luck at a couple of different solar companies and did pretty well. And then SunTrade approached me and said, hey, we want you for this role where you're going to be doing less selling, but more of educating and training the agents that are actually selling these brand new homes. And what's funny about that is I was sitting in my chair whenever I was back at Solar City, and I'm looking at the window of these brand new homes that are going in across the street. I'm like, someone should really, there should be some sort of company, right, that takes care of home builders and puts solar on brand new homes. Well, fast forward a few years, and here I am at SunTrade. That's a company that does exactly that, right? So again, it's, to make a long story short, it's again all about relationships.
Yeah, it really is. I think, let me guess, did you work at Enterprise?
Hertz, actually.
Hertz,
Yes.
Hertz.
Close, very close.
There's so many people that get their first job out of college working at Enterprise.
Yep.
And I think that really trains you to deal with a lot of people's different variety of personalities and, dispositions and the moods that they tend to be in, and you got to kind of think on your feet and really react to people. And I think it's going to weed out the people very quickly who
it does
are
absolutely
good at sales and who aren't. And let's identify what is sales really. It's about, developing a relationship with the person you're interacting with. You're not just also like, here, I'm here to sell you a rental car. Like, you're here to engage them, provide some customer service. If they're having a bad day or they're stranded somewhere, or they're having some challenges, going above and beyond helps to improve the company's reputation and
right.
Helps you out when you're doing that. And then you learn these skills in this fast-paced environment, and then you're able to go apply them to some other stuff. So you're able to kind of combine new passions, new desires, new skills that you have out of college, but then at the same time, you're able to take something you have some knowledge of in the past, some historical relevance to, and so instead of just going like, hey, I'm going to go into construction because my parents were into construction or my family was, like, now you're taking a different path and you're going into something that's, new territories. I don't know what year you got into solar, but, I remember probably, 6-7 years ago, that wasn't even a blip on the radar. It was completely
right.
like people, barely offered it, or it was aftermarket stuff, but it wasn't on the forefront. And if you went to trade shows, like we all go to these big ones in Las Vegas or like PCBC in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and there's thousands of booths out there, and there's tons and tons of vendors, and people are spending big bucks on it. And we would go, and there'd be maybe one or two companies that did solar. And I think the last year we went to PCBC, it was like, I don't know, 50-60% of the people we met on one-to-one meetings was all in solar. So it's definitely a hot industry. So it's a good one to get going into. What was it like transitioning from working in a scenario where you're doing cold phone calls, talking people into taking a solar, versus now you're working with customers that work for your clients, they're relationship driven, and you're doing more of an educational process versus, a traditional sales method?
There's actually a lot of similarities there. So just like with what I do right now with builders, whenever I'm talking to someone at a kitchen table about about putting solar on their home, there's still a lot of education that comes across. Maybe this person's done a little bit of research, right? Or maybe they haven't. And I still have to take them through not only how solar works, but also how our company works, and how we go through the permitting process and the design process and the installation process and all those different processes to set their expectations, right? And that's a lot of what I do with our builders, is setting their expectations so they understand how things are going to happen and how things are going to function and work, whenever we start doing business together.
Cool. So what would you say to somebody listening out there right now that has an interest in sales? Where would you tell them to get started, and what were the things that maybe you learned in the past that were the lessons you shouldn't have learned, and maybe you would not apply going forward? And what would you recommend to somebody on the things that they should do so they can get a leg up and start kicking butt?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing the first piece of advice I would give to anyone, especially someone that's looking to get into sales, is you can never stop getting better, right? Sales, especially just myself in the solar industry, but sales in general is all about continuing to improve. And I like to say that in the solar industry, the only constant is change, right? There's always going to be new technology or new prices or new equipment or new processes or something new, and you got to be able to continue to improve and continue to adapt to those changes, right? And it takes a little getting used to that, because it's almost like the ground is always shifting, and your goals might be moving targets. But it teaches you to kind of think about that mentality and to realize that, hey, there's a lot of unknown here, and that's okay. It's okay to have unknowns, but you need to put together a plan on how you're going to tackle those unknowns, right? And that's what I've been able to do pretty well in my time so far at SunStreet. Is there's so many unknowns on how to even bring on a new builder and how to get them turned on for solar, and how to make the transition smooth for them, that I had to put together from scratch a process on how to make that work and how to make that smooth. So not only just how to do it, but how to make it so it's the best experience for that builder, as well as their entire operations and construction team.
Mm-hmm.
As far as something I wish I could unlearn, at some point I got a little bit of anxiety, and you mentioned cold calling earlier. The last thing you want is any sort of nervousness or anxiety whenever you're about to go up to a prospect and talk to them for the first time, and I've worked over the years to kind of smooth that out, but sometime after I got out of the rental car industry and got more into a direct sales role, I developed a little bit of this anxiety. So it's something to kind of keep an eye on. It can definitely take a little bit of control of your work if you let it. And so I've done my best to choose not to let it control me.
Well, it's good to hear that even seasoned salespeople who are you view them as experts of going out, networking, meeting people, constantly going up and doing cold or warm pitches and stuff like that. That you get nervous, you get anxiety, and I think it's something everybody deals with to some extent, and the best way to do it is figure out a way that works for you to kind of control it,
right?
And to work within it. Don't let it beat you, but let it there's a reason why we get anxious when we meet somebody new for the first time. It probably goes back to the days of friends or foe. What are they trying to do, and how am I going to know if I can trust this person? And so when you, at least for me, when I go in there and I'm nervous about something, I say, okay, what makes me less nervous is if I'm not there to ask them to do something, but I'm there to do something for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to meet with somebody and I'm nervous because I got to ask them to do something, and if they say no, I'm going to be devastated. Or if they say yes, I don't know what to do. So like we're playing a lot of scenarios of this. But if I go into the no and go like, hey, I'm not there to ask them to do anything for me. I'm asking them, what can I do to help them? What can I do to support them? it takes off a lot of this pressure, because they're going to tell you like, hey, this is what I need help with. This is what I have a problem with. And you go, oh, now I understand. Maybe
Right.
I can help you out and support you in this manner. And sometimes it has to do with solar, and sometimes it might just be like, hey, I need a good recommendation of a place to eat in the town you live in while I'm visiting. You're like, okay, they could be anything, but everything is everything, and it allows you to start building some rapport with somebody, which allows you to start building that trust. And then, what people start doing business with is people they know, like, and trust. That's the reason why that's such a hot catchphrase, is because it's true. People, like working with people they like.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with everything you just mentioned. And what I've realized is that the home building industry is very, very close knit, right? A lot of people know a lot of the other people that are in the industry, especially in the general local area. But a lot of people, whenever they leave a home building company or a company that's in the home building industry, they may not leave the industry, but they go to a different company that's still in that industry. So it's very important to me to make sure I have decent relationships with a lot of these people, whether they're at a builder or not. They might be at a builder later, and that relationship might come to fruition at that point. Or like you mentioned, they might just need a good recommendation for dinner or something like that. And I do that a lot with people I'm meeting with whenever I'm traveling. Where would be a good place to get lunch around here, something like that. And it helps take a lot of the pressure out of the situation, right? I hate when sales calls or meetings become this kind of tense situation, because I'm not like that. I'm more of a laid back kind of guy, and so I like to try to crack a little joke here and there and lighten up the whole mood, to help build that rapport and build that relationship and take a little bit of the stress out of it for both myself and the person that I'm meeting with. And that's just a better experience for everybody involved.
Yeah, I like what you said about the industry being small, and you never know who's going to be your potential client in the future, because I don't think it's necessarily limited to our industry. I think whatever industry you kind of get plugged into, you start realizing that a lot of the people know each other, and a lot of people move around with
Absolutely,
stuff. So you never know. Like, you could always go like, oh, I'm going to treat Chris like crap because we don't do business with him. But then what if I switch companies, I go work somewhere else, and guess what? Sun Street Solar is their preferred vendor, and now I got to work with you. Like, does it do me any good to treat you bad? No, not, and then vice versa. Like, you never know who's going to go up. Or the other thing that somebody taught me early in my career is you never know who's going to be your boss one day, right? So
absolutely,
yes. You always treat the up and coming people with as much respect as the people that you view as the key decision makers or the senior people, because whoever is that young, contract admin or, just green, doesn't know crap about the industry, that you just blow off and treat like crap, like someday in the future, they might be that person that you have to go and answer. And one of our colleagues that we know in the industry, she'll remember to this day this one person that screwed her over when she was just getting started in her career, and she'll never let that person forget about it. So it's just like, you got to remember, you never know who's going to be your boss, who you're going to go work for, who's going to work for you. Like, just don't burn bridges, man.
Yep. And I've always said this, as we think about our offering out there in the market, right, and how we handle builders and their home buyers and all of that, is that builders have a very, very long memory, like you just mentioned. In a lot of these situations, you might get one shot or one chance, and that is your one chance and one shot to really show them what you can do. And yeah, there's room for mistakes, but at the same time, it's how you recover and how you handle that one shot in that one situation. Whether it be they just need you to fix something, or their current provider fell down, they need you to jump in, whatever. There's a long memory in the industry of doing well and doing poorly, and that's something that's hard to get past if you've had bad relationships. And so, like I mentioned before, that's why I do everything possible to maintain favorable and strong relationships with whoever it might be. I mean, I might meet someone I've met people at building networking events that are in finance, for third-party companies. They don't even necessarily work for a builder or anything like that, but you never know when that person might move or might recommend me to someone that I don't know yet, but I want to know and connect me in that way. So you just never know where that relationship's going to take you.
You never know. You never know. So I always like to ask my guests this question before we wrap up the show, but what does it mean to you to be all in on an idea or an outcome?
So to me, being all in means that you were fully 170% committed to giving your client or your customer the best possible experience and up to their satisfaction and exceeding their satisfaction. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that I like to set low expectations and then always exceed them, right? I like to set their expectations where they should be and then still exceed those expectations, right? I want to give them realistic ideas and thoughts about what could happen, but I want to make sure that those negative consequences don't even come into the equation at all. And that everything that they think about and everything that they remember about me is positive, and they have a positive experience with both me and our services that we provide.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in managing expectations and setting a clear understanding of what the expectation is, what people should know is going to happen. And then once that's established, is try your best to exceed that deliverable. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say 170. It's always like 110, 120, but there's a new standard of overachievement of 170.
Exactly. It's like a quota. You just gotta go way above.
Yeah, way above, right through it too. So very cool. Awesome. Well, great answers. Great chatting with you. Talk a little bit about anybody's listening to the show. Who is SunStreet's ideal client? Who are you guys looking to try to get in front of? Who can we, try to make introductions to you for?
Yeah, so we operate and work directly with home builders, and that doesn't necessarily mean we only work with the huge public home builders. We work with everybody. As long as you're building a few homes in a community and you need solar, we're your guys. I mean, we have years and years of experience in new home solar because that's all we do. We don't have another business focus that takes our focus away from putting solar on brand new homes. And so our ideal customer is a builder that's future focused, and they want to build value into their homes at almost no cost or any cost at all to them, right? I mean, solar is a product that can actually make them money. It can help their homes sell faster and at a higher dollar amount. But people have this idea that it costs so much money. And those are the people that need to talk to me and understand that it doesn't have to cost you any money. And it can be a simple process. And everyone that's involved, from the salespeople to the construction people to the end home buyer, and even the home buyer that purchases that home from that person 5-10 years down the road, they can all have a great experience. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're here to provide.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people about that, and people get the sticker shock a lot of times, like, oh, this is what it costs. But no, you have to understand the lifetime value of something. And so
right.
Educating people that goes, okay, this is your upfront cost, but this is your, you're able to generate electricity, you're going to lower your bills, and this is what you would have paid XYZ over a certain amount of time. So educating people on, hey, just because the bottom line number on the receipt says it's this price, that doesn't mean that's what the final cost is to you, the owner of this system or any type of thing. So It's a very important aspect to be there. What's your prediction? What's the future of solar look like?
The future of solar is, no pun intended, it's bright. But it's going to continue to expand. Obviously, with the code this year kicking in, we've seen some of that expansion so far, right? But I really think that the new home solar footprint, especially in California, is going to double or even triple over the next couple of years because of that mandate, but also because people are realizing that it's a great idea. Like you mentioned, there's sometimes in certain situations, yes, there is an upfront cost for whatever reason, but that cost is going to pay off in the end. And like I mentioned, the only standard and the only steady thing in this whole industry is change, right? The ground is always moving. There's always new technology, and the next step there is all of the storage and battery options that are going to be coming out very, very soon. And ourselves included, we're working on a storage program and have been for about a year and a half now. But that's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. There's a lot of utility issues out there, and unfortunately, it's an old infrastructure, and there's a lot that storage can do to help that, and also really just provide people a different level of service and different level of satisfaction of product and savings and all these different things that go into a fantastic experience.
Awesome stuff. So if anybody wanted to get connected to you or SunStreet, where should they go to find you?
So they can connect with me on LinkedIn. You just go into Nate Pio's connections and I'm in there. Or you can go to our website, buildwithsunstreet.com, and find me. You can go to contact us, and there'll be a box you can just click on and email me. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, because I'm on there as well. And under my LinkedIn, you have my phone number and email, and you can always contact me there.
Awesome stuff. So, of course, all that information will be listed on the show notes, so it'll be easy to reach out to Chris, connect with him, say hello, and if you do reach out and you do chat with him, let him know that you heard about him on the All In podcast with Nate Pale. So, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. Had a great time.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Nate.